All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Victoria, and I'm a customer success specialist with PunchPass. And today we're going to be talking about hybrid classes, how you can support your classes in two ways, both live streaming and in person and in studio. I saw already we had a question about a recording. We will be sending out the recording of this webinar. So if you've signed up and you have to jump off, no problem. We'll get it out to you. And another thing I just wanted to mention, we'll take questions at the end, but feel free to add them, to the chat as we're going. And we'll also be, reaching out at the end when we end the webinar to see if there's any topics you'd be interested in seeing us cover. So this one was we had a lot of people with a lot of interest in hybrid classes, so thank you for that. But let us know if there's anything else that's coming to mind, that things that are exciting to you or something that you're curious about. Definitely let us know. We'd love to make sure that we're offering webinars on content that you're interested in. So we'll go ahead and get started. Again, we're talking about hybrid classes today, and really we're focusing on the ability to host a class at the same time, running it once, but in two different ways at the same time. Having a group of in-person people, your instructors in person, people are able to sign up for spots for an in-person class, but also give people the option and use the setup to have a Zoom live stream so that people can participate with the class, but not actually be there in person. And we're going to talk about a lot of different features when it comes to hybrid classes. So just some things that we're going to be covering is how to set it up. We're going to be talking about some pricing considerations, some ideas, some techniques we're seeing that have been pretty successful. We're going to be talking about using the waitlist feature and how that can really benefit you for these kinds of classes. We'll also be talking a lot about equipment and setup and Zoom settings and all of those really weird technical things that I'm sure lots of you have been thinking about and struggling with. And we've got some cool new tips for you. So that'll be a fun section, and also talking a little bit about the tech side of things. So if that's something that you've been curious about or interested in, we have some info for you, and there's other resources that we're going to provide as well. And then we're going to finish up and talk a little bit about facilitation and interaction. So again, if you have questions as they come up, please feel free to add them to the chat, and we'll get to those at the end. All right. So what are you able to offer with a hybrid class? And sort of talking about the benefits of it. How is that going to help you? How is it going to help your customers? What is special about this? Why are so many people interested in this, right? Well, one of the most obvious reasons is you get to increase your class size without increasing your rent. So especially if you have limitations on how many people can be within a certain square footage, or there's certain limitations and regulations on you right now, and you can have some people in studio, but you're not sure if it's enough to be successful. That's where a hybrid class can come in, because you're able to have more people attend during a single class than you normally maybe would be able to. And again, that's true for right now. That might be true down the road, depending on the size of your space. You might always see a benefit of going with hybrid classes. So that's it might be timely for right now and the experience that we're having right now, but it might also be something that you're going to want to continue with once you find your flow and find your groove with hybrid classes. It's also a way to give your customers options for peace of mind. If someone's fully ready to be back in studio, so excited about it, that's amazing and awesome. And if you're able to work with them with that, that's fantastic. But you might have customers who aren't ready yet. We don't know what everyone's going through. We don't know what levels of safety and security and anxiety that they're experiencing. So it's definitely one of those situations where giving people the option to attend in studio or online is going to just support more people and give them more freedom to choose. So that's a really great benefit of going with hybrid classes, for a way to reach people who are at different levels of comfort right now. And so that's something that definitely keep in mind, but we'll talk about how they can make that choice for themselves in a little bit. You're also able to expand your customer base geographically. So certainly we've talked about this with online classes, like purely online classes, but Same thing with hybrid classes. It's great for the people who are local enough that they can travel and, be at your studio with you in person. But you might have people who this experience and handling a pandemic has allowed them to find their old studio again and take classes with an instructor that they loved when they lived back at their old city. And that might not be something that they want to change, or they might not want that to go away either. So keeping your classes hybrid and continuing the hybrid model might be something that we're going to see a lot more people continue to do, regardless of the health and safety regulations you might be experiencing. And it also might make more class times accessible for your busy customers. So if you have people who, can attend, our local people that can attend your in-studio classes, but only if they're after 6 p.m., well, they might actually be able to attend your 12 p.m. lunchtime class if it's online for them. It might be, great for people to come in studio, but you might have people even who would be in studio also want the online option for certain class times because they don't have the time to take a long enough break to get in the car, drive down there, do all of the, in studio, come back, but they might be able to do it online on Zoom during their lunch break. So it's making things more accessible. It's opening you up to more options. And if we can get the right setup for it, if you can find the right fit for you, then it can be a really positive experience for everyone. So first things first, we really want to get into how do you set this up in PunchPass? How does it work in PunchPass? So you can see how the system works for you, how you're able to give your customers choices and options here, how you're able to set the rules and regulations yourself, and what that's going to look like. So we're going to jump into that demo now.
Let's set up a hybrid class together. So first, we're going to set up our in-person class. Set up a new class. And let's say this is our bar level 2 class. So we can, make some choices about our settings, how long, class description, but reservation settings are probably where you're going to want to make the most adjustments. We're going to go ahead and send them an email reminder. And importantly, if it's an in studio class, we might need to limit the number of reservations accepted based on space or other regulations. So that way we can adjust that. And we also might want to, especially for these in studio limited classes, let people sign up for a wait list so they can sign up and get a spot if maybe someone cancels. We'll save that. So we're setting up the in-person class. We'll go ahead and on the schedule, we'll add it. So let's say this is a Tuesday class, and that's at 11. We can set it to start next week. If there's an end date, obviously, if it's not a recurring class, you can do that. And this is our in-studio class. We're going to go ahead and add the class time. So that gets it on our schedule, like usual. And now we're going to go ahead and add the online one. So we're going to click on set up a new class. And here we go, bar level 2, and let's make it online. So you can change different things if you want a different color scheme or you want it to match, depending on what you're looking to do here. Make it sort of match the things that the other class has, except you might not need to limit the number of reservations accepted. If you have the ability to support as many people as you want in your live stream, that's another option. So go ahead and click save there. And then we're going to go back and manage the schedule. So it's Tuesday, as you said, it's at 11, starting next week. So, we adjust it, but here we have a location. We're going to choose it to be online. So that's something that you can add in your public schedule settings. And then the only thing we're just going to need to do here, now that we know we want it to be an online class, is change the class type so that we set it to be a Zoom class. We're integrated with Zoom here. So we have the option to turn into an online class, which is what we're going to go ahead and do here. And we'll just toggle it to be online, save that. So that way, our classes will automatically be set up with an online meeting. The customers who sign up for the online version are going to get access to that. So that's great. And we'll check out the schedule in a moment. One thing you might want to be aware of, if you do set different levels of pricing for your online versus your in-person, you might want to go into each class type and click into eligible passes to adjust which ones you want to allow. But if we go to our schedule here, we'll see next Tuesday, we have our bar level 2, online. It's flagged as online. And if we go into our public schedule to see what our customers see, here's our bar level 2 online, flagged as online. So that is how your customers will be able to see and pick whether they want to book for the in studio or the online version of the class.
So again, just to kind of reiterate, this is all about setting up your rules for each different type of class. You can set them at the same time, show them on the calendar, but you want to adjust the rules for your reservations to reflect what you can support in person and of course what you can support online. And that is going to be how we're going to really be able to, let's keep going, ensure that your schedule is set up the way that you want it and the way that it was going to work for your customers, who again can make the choice for themselves as to which class they'd like to attend. So I mentioned in the video talking about your eligible passes and classes, and we'll talk about that again in a minute, but it really leads into the pricing conversation. And hopefully we'll be able to talk to you a little bit about, what we're seeing and what we're getting, in terms of our view of people using Punch Pass and people that we've spoken to, what they're comfortable with, and hopefully this will give you some ideas if you're not sure how to set this up yet. So when it comes to online versus in-person pricing, well, we're seeing a couple different things, and it sometimes depends on the pass or membership type, which is going to determine whether there's a difference here. What we're seeing is a lot of people aren't changing their drop-in prices. So generally a drop in, one class pass, people aren't really changing it significantly between an online, live stream class and an in-person class. So for hybrids, a lot of people are keeping those the same, especially if you're, somewhere in the $5, $10, $15, $20 range per class, a regular sort of rate that we see, or kind of on the lower end that we see, you're probably not looking to really discount online classes. However, if you charge more of a premium rate for in-person classes because of the equipment that you offer, or because of any kind of special materials, props, tools, things that you support in person, then you might want to think about having more of a discount for those online passes. But there's a lot of different ways you can come up with strategies for how that can work for you. The biggest thing that we see that's kind of popular is memberships, and we've talked a lot about memberships before, but when we're looking at online versus in person, this is where we're seeing a difference in pricing. If people are offering an online unlimited membership, that price tends to be a bit lower than the price of an unlimited in-studio membership. I think there's something about the unlimited in-studio that really ends up kind of pushing the price up. And so a virtual membership tends to be a little bit, a bit lower than that. So you might see a discount there. Additionally, if you are, not really sure about how to get people, into the online membership and how they might benefit from that, or they might prefer that, well, what a lot of people are doing, because their restrictions are really tight for in studio and they can only have so many classes and only have so many people, you might want to look at adjusting your in-person membership to reflect your current situation. So an unlimited in-studio membership might not be something that's super viable for your customers right now because of the number of classes that you offer. So you might want to look at, for in-person and in-studio classes, you might want to look at punch card memberships so that you can set up a 4, 6, or 8 classes a month membership, and they pay monthly. It's similar to the way that you'd set it up normally, but they'd be a limited number so that it's reflecting what they're actually probably going to be able to access. Versus an online class, that's where we're seeing a lot of people offer unlimited, because it doesn't take up a spot in their session. They can have as many people as they want. So that's being, kind of what we're seeing in terms of trends and things that have been pretty successful. Some other strategies that we've been talking about are looking at people who maybe were gung-ho and doing online classes with you back in, April of last year when this was the option, people were figuring out how to make it work, and maybe they got a little zoomed out. Maybe this is a time to offer some kind of discount to people who attended previously online classes with you, to maybe kind of have a zoom back in with us, sort of discount rate, and say, we've really figured out, we've worked out the kinks. We're feeling comfortable with the way that we're offering online classes, or that we're offering hybrid classes. Why don't you come on back? We'll have a special rate for you, or something along those lines. Those are some other strategies you might want to look into, especially as you're getting, might have a lot more experience with how you offer these classes now. You might be a lot more comfortable with it, and you might feel pretty confident that you can get people back in and back interested. Another great option to do with hybrid that I think people might be missing is considering running like a series, a course, a boot camp that's hybrid. So you might have a certain number of spots available for in person, and that might make you maybe like be shying away from a series, or something kind of more intensive for a short amount of time, because you feel like maybe there's not enough people for it to be viable. But you add the hybrid aspect, and now all of a sudden it might make a little bit more sense to go and do that kind of like like 8-week, 6-week course, something like that, to get people back at the swing of things, and then hopefully attract some new people who might find it a lot easier to just, oh, I'll just sign up for that boot camp course or something along those lines, so that it's a little bit maybe easy to get them interested and get them invested in what you have to offer. But it's something that I think with the hybrid version, where you can do in person, online, it might make a series or something a little bit more intensive feel a little bit more possible, and hopefully generate some revenue for you. But if you are going to be offering your different prices for your in-person versus your online classes, then the pass and class eligibility within Punch Pass is going to be a really important feature for you to check out. So when you create a new pass, the default is going to be all of the class types are eligible for it. And if you're creating a pass that's just for in-person or just for online, you're going to want to click into the eligible classes area and adjust. So for this pass, that's going to work with all my virtual classes. Great. So that's why having these separate classes is going to make that feature a lot more functional for you. So you can do that on the pass side. We also do that on the class side, because sometimes you're making a pass, sometimes you're making a class, and you still want to make sure the eligibility is correct. So same thing with making a class. When you create it, you want to click on that eligible passes button, so you can adjust which passes you want to accept for the new class you've just created. And so that can be really key, again, if you're offering a lot of different pricing levels. I mentioned the waitlist in the video, but let's talk a little bit more about that. So if you are a limited space for in studio, waitlist has always been a great feature for that, but it gets kind of even more fun with the hybrid, because we can set up the waitlist. Hey, we can only have 10 people in studio. Those are some pretty coveted spots. Some people are going to want to sign up for the waitlist. The waitlist feature means that people are signed up as an option, and if someone cancels, then everyone on the waitlist is going to get notified. They're going to get an email that a spot has opened up, and it's going to give them the option to accept and claim that spot proactively, which is really, really key right now, to make sure people aren't just automatically getting into the class without knowing. They're actively choosing, I want to be in this class, I want that spot. And the nice thing is, of course, that if you sign up for the wait list for the in-person class and we're getting close to the class time, and that spot didn't open up, very easy to then book into the virtual one and get access to that. So that's where the wait list, hey, great to fill that in-person spot, but also you now have an option for those people who didn't make it, who didn't make it on the list. They can get into the online class anyway. And this is a really great feature combined with our late cancel. So if you have a rule as to how many hours before class customers can no longer cancel, because you want them to be there, you don't want people to no show, especially with limited spots. But if you allow late cancel, customers will accept that they might be that they're going to be losing a credit, or there's some sort of penalty for your late canceling. Then, but the nice thing is it's being responsible, it's being accountable, it's letting you know they won't be there. And then if there's anyone on the wait list, that opens up the spot for them. So it's a way for you to have actually, received more revenue than spots you have allowed in your space, just for the in-person class, not even considering the fact that then you have the hybrid, so even more potential revenue. So that is how those features can work together really nicely. And now I think this is going to be the part of that people are probably been waiting for, is let's talk about setup. Let's talk about equipment. What are my AV strategies here? And, we're going to go over some things that might seem like basics, but I think, especially now, especially realizing, the benefit of this and the fact that people are probably going to be expecting this to be a little bit, to continue, that hybrid classes are going to be, what's going to be hip in 2021. So let's make sure that our setup for it is really strong, and make sure that people want to come back and keep coming to our classes. So your device. When we were just sort of separate and doing online classes, your instructors are at their homes, they're just running off of their own computer, whatever they may have. We're, obviously we deal with it. We might have some technical difficulties here and there, but when you're doing it as an in-studio and live stream class, you should have a bit more control and a little bit more consistency with your setup. So you're going to want to use a device that's really dedicated to that in your space. So we definitely recommend a computer in this situation. There's a lot more functionality in terms of settings than there are on mobile devices, and you're going to just have a lot more processing power and just power in general for that class. So and your live streaming classes. So we generally recommend that if you can. Obviously, everyone's working with different budgets, so you have to do what works for you. But being able to have a dedicated, this is the device we use for our live stream classes, it's going to improve and probably hopefully reduce your technical challenges because there's consistency. The instructors use the same thing every time. They do the same sets every time. It's not a different device. Oh, well, bring your this and we'll try this. Just get a system and stick with it. Your internet and your connection is really going to be very key for live stream classes. And obviously everyone is experiencing different levels here, and depending on where you live and what you have access to, there might be some struggles there. But one thing that can really help is, instead of using the Wi-Fi, having the device plugged in, with an Ethernet cable to your network. That will make it a stronger connection, and that will hopefully, ideally reduce maybe some connectivity issues you've had in the past. And again, if you have a consistent device, you can get the cable that works for that device, and it's not a constant struggle to make it work for different tools. But, investing in higher speed internet, these things might be important for making hybrid classes work for you. Music has been the struggle of 2020 and beyond, because we are an industry that relies a lot on music, and pretty heavily on music, to make our workouts exciting, to make them fun, to make them honestly, for me, doable in general. If I'm working out with no music, I will not be working out. So we're going to need music. And the challenge is that the music sync has been a struggle. I mean, certainly connection has a lot to do with that, and the fact that Zoom wasn't created for our industry. But we have some cool tips that I'm going to be sharing shortly, and hopefully we'll find a better option, some better settings that you can choose to make the music sync a lot better for you. So excited about that. And we'll also be talking a little bit about your visuals and the camera that you're using. So for a regular office meeting or a webinar, your device camera might be great. But if a lot of what your classes are about is seeing the instructor demonstrate the moves and kind of a clear resolution, you might want to be looking at some tech upgrades. You might want to be looking at a webcam. And this doesn't mean we have to break the bank. There are some nice options out there that we're going to talk about. And it's something to think about if you're, if this is something you want to continue with and you foresee that your studio is going to continue with this because of the benefits and because of or because of restrictions that you're experiencing, there might be, you might find the room in your budget to pick the right tools for you. So let's talk about syncing audio. So this is, a quick demo on some of the tools that there are now in Zoom that we recommend if what's important to you is having the audio sync. You're playing music on a speaker in studio and people are on Zoom with you from your device. How do we make that work? What's the best version of your settings to work with that so that people can hear the instructor and also hear the music? And and let's check that out now.
To adjust our audio settings in Zoom from the app, we're going to click into Settings and we're going to go into Audio. So one thing I recommend checking out is turning off the automatically adjust microphone volume. So what this does is it allows you to test out where the best level is for your microphone volume. And then again, it's going to give you a little bit more control. It's going to let you give a couple tests, maybe run a Zoom with one of your instructors and play around with it. So that's one way to give yourself a little bit more control. Now we're going to ignore the suppressed background noise because we're going to adjust that in a moment through the music and professional audio area. So here we have the show and meeting option to enable original sound from the microphone. And this allows you to disable the Zoom noise suppression, which is a big challenge with the playing music and speaking on top of it. So that is something that we recommend. And then it also gives a couple more options. So there's high fidelity music mode, and that's going to be increasing the quality of the Zoom audio for music. So that's something you might want to test out. Echo cancellation. So if that's a situation where you need to remove that kind of feedback that might be happening or might be getting canceled by Zoom, that is something where if you have a microphone, that might be a good thing to test out. Check it out. And then the stereo audio option is, depending on if you have a mixer and what kind of audio input you're dealing with. So that might be, again, another thing to test out, try how it sounds with each different setting turned off or on to get the right calibration for your particular setup and the different equipment that you're using. But these are different tools that you can use within Zoom to improve the quality of the sound and improve the synchronization for your classes.
Okay. So talked a lot about those settings in Zoom and some features there. The thing I definitely want to stress is that you want to test it out with the equipment that you're using probably before you have an actual class. One thing I was very jazzed about as soon as we were testing out these settings is that, right, I can turn off the auto volume and I can really increase the input sound. And you could probably hear it in the video, how my voice, the volume went up, the volume went down based on where I was toggling it. And that is going to be probably pretty helpful for people who are struggling with the people can hear the music, but they can never hear the instructor. And that might be a way to improve that process for you. And again, if you're using microphone or if you're using speaker, there's things that, testing those different features, enabling the original sound and reducing all that noise canceling, which is great in a meeting, but not super great when we're trying to have two different audio inputs. So that's something that I definitely recommend testing out. And there's one other thing that with that feature that I definitely want to make sure we get here, and it's for your instructors. So when they're starting the meeting, they do need to select to turn on that original sound. So it is another extra step, you can set it to, have it show, but they do have to select turn on the original sound for that class. So that's a step that they need to do. This is from, a desktop Zoom. Within a mobile app, they can again go into settings and select use original sound for the class. And that is something that, again, the instructor is going to have to do. But in order to have a better class and in order to have your music sync up, starting the class, turning on original sound, I think that's not going to be too many steps, that might really improve the experience that both the instructor and the customers have. I take a lot of dance classes, and I take a lot of dance classes. I've taken them fully online. I've taken them, hybrid online in studio, on both the in studio and the online side. And I can see how much it's struggling for, it's a struggle for the instructors when people are having trouble syncing up with the music. And of course it's hard as a customer and trying to, hit the beat on the, but they're counting us in and the music hasn't started yet on our end. So these little tips, these little test things that you can try out, it's worth giving it an afternoon and working with one of your instructors and testing it out and seeing what works best for what you have and for your space. Because especially if you're Zumba, if you're dance, if you're bar, anything that really helps you sync with the music is going to be really worth it for you and for your customers. So check out those settings. I think we're excited that Zoom has been improving some of these features for us. So definitely check that out. Now, if your workouts aren't really tied to, if your classes aren't really tied to synced up music, if it's kind of in the background just to sort of be there and it's not just empty sound or empty space and just someone talking, then the audio share option is still a great tool, where from within Zoom, you go to share screen, but instead of sharing your screen, you can go into the advanced tab and select to share your music or computer sound. And that is going to be great if you're, running it off of your computer, you're playing Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, whatever tools you're using. That's how you can share, and that'll be, a great way to just have the music on and working for your customers, for a hybrid class as well. One thing I do want to mention here is that if you're sharing the computer sound, and you want to turn the music up or down for your customers, you're going to want to go into the app or system that you're using. Again, YouTube, Spotify, whatever you've got, and adjust the volume there, because if all you're doing is hitting the volume buttons on your device, you won't actually be changing the volume for your customers. So that's one thing I definitely recommend if you're just doing the audio share from Zoom. Make sure you to have the music app open and be ready to adjust the volume within there. So you might need to turn it down at some points, turn it up at some points, and your device isn't going to do that for them. So when you do the audio share, make sure you know to do that. Visuals. So when it comes to setting up the camera or the device in your camera and how that's going to work for you, there's some basic tips. Obviously, if you have nice windows and daylight during your classes, that's going to be great lighting. I mean, you're going to have a good time with that most of the time, as long as you make sure you're not standing in front of the window and the backlight is happening and you're just a nice silhouette. Lovely, effect, but not really great if you're trying to demonstrate movement. So when it comes to, a situation where, hey, you don't have the light, you don't have the best setup for that, you might want to think about considering some lighting additions. When it comes to your camera, obviously a webcam might be something that you want to consider. And this is where you don't have to break the bank. There are some really great cameras that can improve your quality. Just kind of looking at some couple recommended ones to us. This is 180p HD video webcam. It's under $100. And this isn't the kind of thing that you have to purchase for every instructor. This is great for a hybrid class where you have one on your one device, and that's going to really improve the quality of your visuals. So the built-in device absolutely works, but if you're looking to upgrade, if you're looking to take things to the next level, if you're seeing that hybrid classes are something you're going to continue doing, this might be a place where you're going to find some room in your budget. And with lighting, this is, what's great is that these are also ways to kind of improve things, make things a little fun, but without, necessarily having to spend a ton for professional lighting. You can get lighting for I don't know if I'd say cheap, but it's definitely, something that's very doable for a lot of people out there. So this can be a fun way to, again, improve your lighting, get some, test it out with your video and your instructors. I like these ones because you get the different color filters, and especially if you're doing, classes at different times of day or at night, it can be fun to play around with that. Like throw on a red or blue filter at night and it's a party, and that could be really fun for an online class and in studio. So definitely, if this is something that you've been struggling with, or you've been kind of making it work, but you're starting to think that maybe this is going to be something that's going to continue for you, you might want to think about investing in some additional equipment. One thing I'll definitely recommend is looking at some of the keywords for definitely for your lighting, but also for webcams as well. Is if it includes, it mentions Zoom, it mentions video conferencing, YouTube video. We don't really have keywords like, we're not getting a fitness video equipment isn't necessarily a buzzword in the tech side of things, but these kind of things, video conference lighting, YouTube lighting, that's going to probably be a good sign, because that's really built for lighting for video as opposed to lighting for still photography. So that's something to keep in mind as you're checking out different options, as you're exploring what's available to you. So I will say that we have not tested every product out there on the market from PunchPass. We don't have the time or the budget for that, but there's a lot of places that can provide a lot more deep technical information for you, or just give you some pretty good recommendations. We're big fans of the Wirecutter at PunchPass. Wirecutter is a New York Times site that they do a lot of testing of a lot of different products. And they are great when it comes to technology, whether you're looking at microphones, headphones, webcams. As you can see here, a USB audio interface, so that input mixer, that is something that, if you're interested in, if you're thinking about considering more tech and getting involved in that, I love this site. They have, and of course they do tests and recommendations. They'll give you their top tier offer. They'll give you their best budget buy. So definitely a great site to check out and explore. And again, I mean, you can use it for anything, but especially for the tech for your business. I think it's great to check out some highly reputable sources and reviews. And another site that I've been so excited to find is musicrepo.com, and they have done some overviews on online fitness class setup. And a lot of my Zoom tips are from them. They have a way more involved video explaining exactly what everything does, and talking you through the different tools that you might be using and what's the best setup for that. I would highly recommend checking that out if that's something that you really want to dive into. If you're thinking, I really need to have the tech and check it out and make sure it's going to work for me, make sure my settings are the right ones for me and my equipment, this is a great site. They've got some really cool posts. They also did an overview on conducting music lessons over Zoom. And I was thinking, that might be the one industry that has a harder time on Zoom than we do. So I think they've got a really nice setup. I've got a really cool, group of articles about this and how-tos and videos. So definitely, if this kind of conversation has gotten you thinking, the wheels are spinning, you're getting excited, I would definitely check them out. Okay, so facilitation. how can we make the process of instructing these classes, consistent and easy and a little less stressful maybe for the instructor? How can we encourage participation? There's a couple different things we can do, and you'll forgive my silliness here. We've got some gifts coming up. So one of the things that I found really successful, by doing a lot of these classes myself, is hand signals. It's great if you can just jump over to your computer and hit unmute, and ask a question or let someone know you need help. And that's awesome. But sometimes the instructor's just like, we good to go? We want to try that one more time. And you kind of need a faster way to talk to your instructor than unmuting and muting. And so this is where hand signals can come into play, and having a consistent process is something that you can use in studio and in person. And this has been pretty successful for us, so I wanted to share. When you're ready to, like, good to move on, good to go, Keanu Reeves, thumbs up. I love it. That's almost a universal signal, hopefully, but obviously you can adjust it for your own needs. But 2 thumbs up, ready to go on. I love it. But if you need, hey, let's do it again. Let's try it again. Give me the Spider-Man dance, the hand rolling, and let us know, hey, we need to do that again. Let's try it again. Can we go over that again? Great way to kind of just easily identify that, especially if you're in the instructor and you're looking at a gallery view, you see a bunch of thumbs ups, you're ready to keep moving. Another important thing, if you're the instructor, is repeating and sharing questions and answers. One of the things that will continue to be a challenge when it comes to audio is, especially when you're doing in person and online, is if you have a question from someone in the class, they might be a little far away from you and you hear them, but the people on Zoom might not hear them. So if someone asks something in person, or if someone asks something online, someone reaches out in the chat, anything like that, definitely good idea to share the questions, repeat the question asked, answer it, and again, let people know that they can always unmute themselves if they do have a question, because that's probably going to be the fastest way to get that support. So I know repeating that and asking that. And then, ways to get people involved and talking to each other. So, or getting engaged. One thing that I like is depending on what you're doing, this might work or this might not work for you, but always an option. Hey, in studio people, we're going to take a water break. We're going to check out how the Zoom people are going, how they're doing. Hey, Zoomers, you're going to, take your water break, and we'll turn the camera and you can see everybody in studio, perform or do something. That's a way that you can, facilitate some interaction there. Or you could just take a water break altogether, have people say hi to the people who are on Zoom. You could start your class off with everyone introduce themselves, go in the gallery view or speaker view in Zoom, and kind of round robin and let the people in class introduce themselves. And we were talking before this, and there's a possibility, and I think it's a pretty good one, that even when people are cleared to participate and good to go and come in person, we don't know what everyone's dealing with, and their own anxieties and concerns. And something that might make them feel more comfortable is getting to participate online and then seeing people in the class and seeing how they're set up and they're distanced, or seeing how they're enjoying it, or masked, or however your class is operating, so that they can see and be excited about coming back to the studio whenever they're ready. Or they can see one of their friends and be like, oh, I should ask them how it's going, or I should say, like, you can, that way they can check in with them and say, oh, like, how did you feel about going back to in person? That might be a great way to kind of do, let people know that it's okay, and that they can, kind of interact and see what might be coming for them when they're able to get back in studio. So I think the hybrid model is not only something that might just continue to work for you and you're going to keep moving on with, but it also might be a great way to start transitioning if you are one of those studios. And we have a lot of you who have just been dying to get back to fully in studio. hybrid might be a great transitional process for you, but it might end up being something that it's great to keep going with and continuing as time goes on, and it becomes just popular and opens up revenue options for you. So lots of different options there, lots of different ideas and techniques, but hopefully this has just gotten the wheels turning a little bit, and we can kind of help provide you with at least a little bit of inspiration. Now, another thing that we love is that you can reuse this. So one, you're using it for in studio, you're using it for live streaming, and then if you happen to record your classes, you can use them again for your class recordings. So in PunchPass, we have our content library. You're able to upload videos, give access to, they could be public videos, they could be just for people who have logins, they could be just for certain pass or membership holders who get access to the videos, or it could be, everyone who signed up for a class gets access to the recording afterwards. So lots of different ways you can use your content and use one class time to hit sort of 3 different markets. That's pretty good. Now, I'm not going to get too far into the content library because we actually covered a lot about the content library and fully online classes in a webinar recently. So one thing I did want to mention is you can always go to punchpass.com/webinars. If you've liked what we've talked about today, this is where we host all of our recorded webinars. So you might want to check out some more information there. If you're excited about the content library, you're not sure about that, check out our fully online webinar and how we talk about using it and different options for you. And again, this recording will be coming out to you if you've signed up, but we'll also host it here as well. So if there's more questions about that, definitely check out what we have there, because we've been doing this for over a year, and it's been really fun to talk to all of you about different things in the industry and ways that we can help you with PunchPass. And if you're not a PunchPass user, if you're just checking it out with us, or you maybe were considering signing up for a trial, we have a 2-week free trial. You can go to punchpass.com/free trial. You can sign up. There's no credit card, no nothing. You just get to check it out, see how it works for you, set up a hybrid class. And if you've enjoyed how we talk about things and how we support, you'll probably be talking to me a lot in the chat, because I'm in the chat every day helping users like you get set up and use the tool in the best way for your studio. So definitely, if you haven't signed up with PunchPass, I hope you'll consider it. All right, so I see the chat's been buzzing. I'm gonna go take a look and we can get into questions. Oh, yes, so we had a question. Are we able to set Zoom as a Zoom class so that all the classes are automatically in Zoom? I've been setting them up one at a time. So thank you for the question. Yes, you can. So if you have the Zoom integration, and I demonstrated this in the video, but just to reiterate, if you set up a recurring class time, you don't have to set each individual class time as online with Zoom, although you could. You can also go into manage the schedule for that class, click edit for the class time, and you'll see the option that says turn into an online class. And what we do with that is every 2 weeks in advance, we'll create the Zoom meeting for you. We'll add the link to the class, and that will then sort of be happening in the background. You don't have to go into Zoom and create those. You don't have to individually change them in PunchPass. They'll get created for you, and they'll be sent out to the customers who've signed up with their reminder email. And they can also log into their account, click on My Reservations, and they'll also see any upcoming classes. They'll see the Zoom links there. So that's great. So the question is, there's a question here saying, I don't really understand, what does turn on original sound mean? So with Zoom, and the way that Zoom is kind of was created to work, is to work for these kind of webinars or just like a group meeting. And so they were built to automatically clear out background noise. So if someone, there's a dog barking in the background, or there's street traffic, you wouldn't necessarily, it would kind of cancel a lot of those extra sounds. That's really not good if you need to play music and talk at the same time in a Zoom meeting. So that's where the original sound feature and enabling that within your Zoom settings is key. And I'm sorry if that was a little confusing, but yes, we're eliminating some of those auto Zoom features that are great for Office, but not so great for fitness. Hmm. Okay. Can we provide those links? Because I know I had links to, I think, the wire cutter and also the fitness overview at Music Repo. I'll reach out and see if we can send those out with the recording link as well. I'll check in about that, but we probably should be able to do that. Oh, great. We have a great question about setting up the Zoom camera. Where in the room is it? Where is it facing? Generally, what people are doing is setting up the camera towards the instructor and not necessarily at the full class. For most of the classes, that's generally what we're seeing, especially because, if you're going to be recording that, that's what people are generally looking at. However, I think it's good to consider, doing that for a lot of the class, but then maybe occasionally moving like giving a little turn to see the class or say hi to the class in the beginning, or if you're having a chat or a question or a demonstration, that might be where you might want to turn your camera to look at the rest of the class. But of course, you might want to check with everyone and get. I just saw that someone just wanted the information, so I'm sending the link in the chat for the website. But right, so you might want to check with your in-class students if you are going to be turning the camera on them. You might want to ask them for consent for that, or set it up in a way that people who are comfortable might have access, and people who might not want to be on camera, there might be a way that you could angle it so that people are comfortable with where they're standing. I've also seen a lot of success with mirrors. So one thing that can be a struggle is if you're doing instruction for Zumba. A lot of times when you're teaching, people are behind you, but they can see the front of you in a mirror. So sometimes people set it up similar to that. If you have a mirror there, they'll set up the camera so it's facing the back of the instructor, but on an angle so that in the mirror you can see the front of the instructor at the same time. So I've been to a number of dance classes where that's been the case, where they use the mirror, because again, if it's an in-studio class, you have the benefit of your in-studio tools. So if that's something that you do have, that might be a good option or a good setup. And let's see, I think I saw. Someone asked a question about in some of the recordings of the classes, there's like a murmuring background sound for their voice. And it's, doesn't happen all the time, but it happens a lot. Is there a setting that they need to change? I think, if you're, I might be wrong about this. I'm assuming that you might be teaching classes with people there, and it's not just imaginary or like noise that happens to the recording. It is actually noise that is happening, but it is getting picked up. I think in that situation, you might want to look into possibly a headphone. I don't know about settings in terms of what might be causing that more so than anything else. A lot of it, I think a lot of it can be helpful by using a microphone. So that might be something to check out. But I'm not sure of any, Zoom setting that would cause more background noise as a, or on your recording that isn't there in person. I'm not sure about that. That might need to be a Zoom support question if it's not something that's actually there. Oh, you're at home all by yourself. Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, I don't know why that would be happening on the recording. That is definitely kind of a thinker, a head scratcher for me. your students can hear it while it's happening. Yeah, I think in that situation, I'm not sure other than maybe considering looking at a microphone, because my guess is that what I do know is that a lot of device microphones are not necessarily what you really want to be using in these situations, because they're okay. But I think that might be what I would recommend. If not, I mean, you might want to check out with Zoom support as well, because they might have a better response for that. But I think honestly, unfortunately, like, you might want to look at mic options. Um, that, I mean, a lot of those things, like, you can unbox, test it, and if it's not doesn't change anything for you, I'm sure you can return. So that might be something to think about for that, because that's an unusual one, and I haven't heard about that, but I definitely think, from what I can tell, it could just be kind of feedback from your microphone, built into your device. Someone asked again about mirrors, so I'll try to explain that a little bit better. So if I place the camera right behind me, and I have a mirror in front of me, you're not necessarily going to see the front from the mirror. You're just going to still see the back of me. If we put the camera on an angle, you can see, the back of me demonstrating moves, but you'll also see my reflection in the mirror. So that is something that sometimes can be really helpful, especially if you're doing, I'd say, I mean, again, my experience is a lot with dance instruction, and mirrors are really helpful for that. So that can happen. Great question. Someone said, I'm having problem using my AirPods, and attendees end up freezing. So one of the challenges with AirPods is that, and for those who don't know, AirPods are, I think, Apple's wireless headphones. And one of the challenges that is going to be happening is that we're relying on a couple different things here, because you're possibly relying on Wi-Fi and not hardwired to the network, and then also you're relying on Bluetooth. So the chances of there being a delay when you're using Bluetooth might be more significant. I'm not sure why the attendees would freeze when you're using your AirPods versus not, if you're not using headphones at all in that situation. But I know that Bluetooth can sometimes cause a syncing issues, because there's just more potential for delay. I would say that sometimes, my other thought with attendees freezing, and using Bluetooth and demonstrating, you might want to, again, check out possibly, the benefit of at least maybe connecting your device to, like, using an Ethernet. Um, do I have a specific microphone or headset recommendation? I don't, honestly. I've been using AirPods and they've been working for me, so that was going to be a recommendation if someone asked. But unfortunately, it sounds like yours have been causing you some challenges. And again, with Bluetooth, I think that can be that does sometimes end up being a challenge. What I will say, again, from musicrepo.com, they had a lot of different microphone recommendations for different situations. A lot of it also has to do with the space that you're working in. So if you were in a big room and it's really empty or wood, that microphone situation is going to be different than if if you're doing instruction from home in your second bedroom and it's a bit smaller. Maybe there's carpet or curtains. Sound recommendations are going to be a little different. But one of the things that they do recommend for fitness studios is USB microphones. So even though it's not connected right up to your face like a headset, it's still going to be a better sound input. So even if it's not quite connected to you, which and using Bluetooth, which might again cause some of those delays, they have some USB microphone recommendations that I think would be worth checking out. There's some, like, higher end ones. I know they recommend I saw like the Blue Yeti is a microphone that I personally own and am a fan of, but they can, run a little bit pricier. But there's definitely some nice microphone options that you might want to check out there as well. But yeah, I haven't been hearing so much about specific headsets, and generally people have been pretty happy using AirPods if they are looking for a Bluetooth solution. But maybe because of your internet connectivity just might not be at the level that you need it for those. So possibly looking at a USB microphone might be the best option for your situation and your setup. But we just hit the hour point, so I am gonna stop it here. If you have more questions, you can always go to any PunchPass site, reach out to us, log in. We're on the chat at your homepage. If anything else comes up, we're here to help. And again, if you have other ideas about things you'd like to see us cover, please let us know. We're really excited about what information we can research for you and provide you. So thank you all for joining us. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll catch you again in about a month.